Today we will be learning about Byzantine culture and especially about Christianity as it developed within the Byzantine Empire, which turns out to be super important because this style of Christianity spreads throughout a large portion of Eastern Europe. By the end of the video, you should be able to answer these questions and you should know what those vocab terms mean. Take a minute, look at them before you go on. So let's go ahead and start with Constantinople during the age of Justinian. And it's important to remember that during Justinian's reign, which is around the year 500 AD, the Byzantine Empire is at its height in terms of political power and also in terms of economic power. And so Constantinople at this point is a huge, flourishing city that can bring in resources from all across Asia and the Mediterranean. One of the reasons that Constantinople is flourishing is because it's a cultural crossroads. So in the same way that goods are traveling from all over the world to Constantinople, ideas are also traveling to Constantinople. And in this city, we see an amazing blending of Roman and Middle Eastern traditions. And we see this even in religion because, remember, Christianity was originally a Middle Eastern religion that is being brought over and adopted by a Western people, aka the Romans. And we can see the Roman influence in the city of Constantinople by one of the major buildings of the city, and that is the Hippodrome. It's not pictured here, but basically it is a huge arena similar to buildings that you would know in Rome, like the Colosseum, but it's especially designed for chariot races. And so in the same way that people in Rome could go enjoy chariot races at the Circus Maximus or gladiator fights or whatever, in the Colosseum, the people of Constantinople can gather to enjoy chariot races and other amazing spectacles in the Hippodrome. But we also see the influence of Middle Eastern ideas by in an even larger building known as the Hagia Sophia, which at the time it was built, at 538 AD, it was the largest church of its day. But so even though it is devoted to Christianity, an Eastern religion, you see that it is constructed using the principles of Greek and Roman mathematics. A couple of Greek guys are hired to construct this enormous domed building. And this building also showcases the expanse and the strength of the Byzantine Empire because it brings together materials from all over the empire. You have columns imported from ancient Greek temples, stones, types of marble mined all over the Mediterranean, all transported to this central city. You also see the power of the Byzantine empires at this point because this enormous structure was built in just 6 years by a highly organized workforce of 10,000 builders. And this is extremely impressive, especially when you consider that later on in the Middle Ages, it sometimes took hundreds, if not several hundred years to construct equally sized churches and cathedrals. But so this massive and amazing structure becomes a major center of Byzantine Christianity, and it's the place where emperors and patriarchs will attempt to control Christianity for hundreds of years to come. A picture of what the Hagia Sophia looks like if you cut it down the middle. I'm sorry it's kind of a grainy photo, but hopefully you can see how the architects of the Hagia Sophia combined columns and arches and domes, all structures that the Romans mastered, to build this magnificent structure. You'll notice that the spires that you saw in the last slide are not visible here, and that's because those spires are actually called minarets, which were added after Islamic peoples conquered Constantinople around the year 1400. So for a long time, the super cool looking towers do not exist, and the Hagia Sophia is just this domed structure that you see here. And here's a pretty picture of what the Hagia Sophia looks like from the inside. Just imagine what a peasant would think if he ever got the chance to step inside of this enormous domed golden structure. He would probably think, "Oh my God," which is exactly what the architects wanted him to think. So anyway, we can tell from the Hagia Sophia that Christianity is super important to the Byzantine Empire. So we need to take a little bit of time to look more into how the Byzantines actually practiced Christianity. And first of all, it's important to remember that the Byzantine emperor claimed not only political authority, that is control over Byzantium's armies and government and stuff like that, but also religious authority. That is, he claimed that he could make important religious decisions and could influence the development of the church, which he did. He worked hard to influence how the church developed. And this goes all the way back to Constantine, you may remember, in the 300s when he summoned the first council of the church, that is, the Council of Nicaea. And this tradition continues on for the more than 1,000 years of the Byzantine Empire's existence. And the main thing that the emperor did in influencing the development of the church was he was the guy who appointed the patriarch of Constantinople. And if you remember, the patriarch was the top guy in the church hierarchy. And so if the emperor picks the guy who's at the top of the church hierarchy, then really, who's at the top? The emperor. So the emperor tries to maintain a supreme position within the Christian church. Some things that develop in Byzantium, or in the Byzantine Empire as Christianity continues to grow and develop, is an emphasis on three things that remain very important in certain kinds of Christianity up to today. And this is an emphasis on monasteries, saints, and icons. And so a monastery is a secluded community where people who were called monks would seclude themselves from the world and devote all of their time and thought to worship. These were people who decided that the world itself was not extremely important, and so they would reject the world and all the business and fun that you could have in the world, and instead devote themselves to simple, quiet lives of meditation and prayer. And these people were extremely respected in Byzantine Christianity, and this tradition of monasticism continues to this day. We'll see some pictures in a minute of some modern-day monks practicing near where Constantinople once stood. So also there's an emphasis on the worship of saints, or the veneration of saints is the actual word they use. But so to venerate a saint means to pray to them, to basically ask for their help. And the saints were people who were believed to have been of some sort of extreme holiness. Maybe they were monks, maybe they died for defending Christianity. But so anyway, these people of extreme holiness, when they die, are often believed to acquire special powers to help the living. And so people would pray to saints maybe if they were about to go into battle, or if they were sick and they wanted to be healed. You could pray to a saint. And oftentimes, if you wanted to pray to a saint, what you would do is you would pray to an icon, which was a special kind of holy image, usually of Jesus or of a saint, that you would use to focus your prayer. You would stand before an icon to focus your mind on religious thoughts. So that's it. Those are the three main new focuses of Byzantine Christianity: monasteries, saints, and icons. They remain important up until today in the eastern chunk of Christianity. Also, the emperors continue to try to unify Christianity, and this begins with the Council of Nicaea, but the emperors want to keep Christianity together as a single unit and to keep control of it. And this is as much an expression of their desire for political control of their territory as it is for their desire of religious uniformity. The emperors seek to use Christianity as a way to maintain control over a large territory. Pictures that show you some unique aspects of Eastern Christianity. This here is a picture of the monastery of Mount Athos, which was first founded around the year 900. That is when the Byzantine Empire was still strong, but was entering its period of decline. And I can only imagine what it would be like to gaze out of a window of that medieval fortress there. And to the right, you'll see modern-day monks who live in the monastery of Mount Athos, and they're gathering together for prayer and perhaps what appears to be chanting. They're famous for their ability to sing and recite prayers together. So anyway, that's what the monks who live there look like, and they've looked more or less that way, probably without the eyeglasses, for more or less 1,000 years. And here's a picture of an icon. This icon shows Jesus Christ, who's the guy on the right, with a saint from the 2nd century, Saint Mina, who's a guy who lived in Roman-controlled Egypt. And Saint Mina was killed by the Romans. He was one of the guys who died during the persecution of Christians. But he is now worshipped still to this day as a saint. And it's believed that if you are suffering from some kind of illness, if you pray to him, he may be able to help cure you. And usually if you wanted to pray to him, you could find an icon of this particular saint, and this would help you as you attempted to ask him for help. So that's some stuff about Byzantine Christianity, but one of the most interesting things that happens during the period of Byzantine control is you see a split between Eastern Christianity and Western Christianity. And how this happens is there's competition for religious authority between the popes and the Byzantine emperors. And the popes, I'll just go ahead and say, were the patriarchs of Rome. And so you see this conflict between the religious authority in Italy and the religious authority in Greece. Basically, both sides claim that they are the supreme authority within the Christian church. The emperor says that he speaks for God, absolutely. The pope says no, he does, and neither side can agree. They're kind of vying for control. And what happens after around the year 600 is that the Byzantine emperors lose control of Italy. Smaller kingdoms from northern Europe come down and conquer that territory. And what that means is the emperor can no longer basically force the pope to listen to him, because now the pope is controlled by somebody else. So the pope can say more or less whatever he wants regarding Christianity. And this leads to disagreements about all sorts of theological issues, both major and minor. On the major side, there's disagreement about exactly what the Holy Spirit is, where it comes from. And on the minor side, there's argument about what type of bread should be used in the Eucharist. The people in the East say normal bread is fine. The people in the West say no, a special kind of wafer should be used. So anyway, there's kind of growing disagreement, and they argue about all sorts of stuff. But the final split doesn't come until the years of 1053 and 1054. What happens then is a Byzantine Empire closes all of the Latin churches in Constantinople. That is the Western style churches. More or less in response, a Western representative goes to Constantinople and demands that the emperor recognize the Pope's supremacy. And of course the emperor doesn't do this, and the disagreement ultimately ends with both sides excommunicating one another. And to excommunicate somebody means to officially kick them out of the church. So the Pope kicks the emperor out of the church, and the emperor kicks the Pope out of the church. And they basically just split and decide they're going to run their own churches their own way. And you see the development of Roman Catholicism in the West based on Rome, and of Eastern Orthodox Christianity based in Constantinople. One last thing that's important is the Byzantine style of Christianity begins to spread around the year 800, even as the Byzantine Empire is entering its period of decline. And the guys who basically make it happen are these two monks known as Cyril and Methodius. And these guys were interested in converting the people who lived to the north of Greece, who spoke a new kind of language that people hadn't encountered before, known as Slavic languages. And in order to convert these guys, these two monks, Cyril and Methodius, create a new alphabet and use this alphabet to translate the Bible into these Slavic languages. And the Bible, or the new alphabet, is known as the Cyrillic alphabet. And I don't know why Methodius doesn't get credit. Maybe he's got kind of gypped out of recognition, or the Methodianic alphabet doesn't sound as good. But so anyway, the Cyrillic alphabet is used to translate the Bible, and with this new script, Cyril and Methodius are able to convert a lot of the people of Eastern Europe to Byzantine-style Christianity. And most importantly, they're able to convert the rulers of the emerging state known as Russia. And Russia, which would go on to be a super powerful kingdom throughout the medieval and modern periods, would remain true to this Byzantine style of Christianity. So that's all for today. Sorry this video ran a little bit long, but hopefully you found it interesting, or at least not terribly boring. Please take some time to look at these goals, make sure you can answer these questions, and yeah, that's basically it. I'll see you tomorrow.